The first time I heard podcast game was just after the release of Vampire Survivors, when everyone was bumping and grinding their way through hordes of the undead. A podcast game is not defined by the gameplay, style, or the platform you get it on, but by how easy it is to play while binge rewatching your favorite season of Taskmaster. Podcast game is just the most recent and most acceptable term for a really common genre of video game. It's the most popular, the most played, and the most ignored. Call them browser games, idle games or idlers, incremental games, social games, or clickers. Each has a slightly different connotation. They're simple to learn, often foregoing a tutorial and requiring few button inputs to play. Starting a game is easy, and there are few penalties for stopping. Sometimes, there are no lose conditions at all. They rarely have a story or characters or any sort of ending, aka the things that we associate with good games or games that are art. They're about as stripped down as a game can be, almost purely about the pleasure of the gameplay, to the point, some have argued, of being manipulative. Those elements are neither good nor bad, but given enough time, any genre associated with them will develop what Joan Jett would call a bad reputation. This is why there are so many names for this kind of genre. When an old name gets too dirty, it gets abandoned. But the style of game keeps getting made. The most despised variant these days is the mobile game. They're perceived as predatory, addictive, simple, low quality. They have no story, no ending, and they're too difficult to play on what Joan Jett would call the do you wanna touch screen. Mobile games are so reviled by the gaming community that people who play them, even if they play them for hours a day, are not considered real gamers, and probably don't consider themselves real gamers. Because unlike real games, these games are a waste of time. But something interesting happens when you take one of those games, remove it from a phone, and put it on a desktop. Suddenly, the simplicity and borrowed graphics are an asset, not a flaw. It sells millions. It becomes a genuine hit among the real gaming community. Vampire Survivors can be played with one hand, or no hand if your build is good. I'm a literal die-hard garlic runner. Strategizing happens in bursts when you select an item. And the monsters don't vary in behavior. They run at you until they die or you do. And that means for long stretches of time, the mental load of Vampire Survivors is minimal. Luca Galante, the developer of Vampire Survivors, has said he was inspired by the mobile game Magic Survival. And can I tell you, Inspired is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Basically, he copied Magic Survival's homework and then got a higher grade. Damiano Gurley writes that Galante, quote, wanted the game to feel fun for himself, but nothing that would be too time-consuming. I thought of designing the attack as being automatic, so that the player could concentrate on doing something else, like listen to a podcast. Galante actually ran into the issue of mobile games being kind of scummy when it was time to port Vampire Survivors to mobile. According to him, so many porting companies wanted predatory pricing schemes that he threw up his hands and just did it in-house. Ads and microtransactions are disruptive even when they're relatively discreet, like the ones in Magic Survival. And worse, a lot of mobile games are just actively scams, tricking people with fine print or manipulative pricing with no real regulation to stop them. But Vampire Survivors proves that people do really like the gameplay of mobile games, as long as it's been removed from the context with that negative connotation and made available on a desktop. And that's actually hugely important, because for the past 15 years, the worst innovations of clicker, mobile, social, and browser games have gone on to become the roadmap for mainstream games. At the time of writing, Palworld is blowing people away with the number of concurrent players, with over 2 million, probably more by the time I'm recording this. For perspective, at its peak, Farmville had 34 million daily active users. Y'all remember Farmville? If you're not familiar, Farmville was a social game released in 2009, playable in a browser on Facebook. Like the games it ripped off, and the games that ripped it off, Farmville was a very standard farming sim. But it's noteworthy for two things. One, the crops were on a timer, and they could wither if you weren't returning at a set time to pick them, so you were really beholden to the game's schedule. Two, the social aspects of the game meant you got in-game rewards for engaging with or bothering other users. All of the work you did was published visibly, publicly on your activity feed. And now remember, this is back in a forgotten era when Facebook used activity feeds and people used Facebook. And here's some of the things people said about Farmville at the time. mindlessly deploying gaming's most superficial and addictive features, such as leaderboards and badges, without providing the underlying experience that gives them meaning. There's a constant process of iteration and innovation after the game is released, unlike console games. Hardly even a game. Sorry, it's just funny. Hardly even a game. It's more a series of mindless chores on a digital farm, requiring the endless clicking of a mouse to plant and harvest crops.
They're the same picture.
What's important to remember is that people hated Farmville. At the 2010 GDC Awards, Farmville won the first ever Best Social Game, and the executive that accepted the award was booed off the stage. I tried so hard to find footage of this, and a shout out to whatever GDC employee was responsible for scrubbing that footage from the internet because I could not find it. And this, of course, is to say nothing at all about the ways that loot box migrated from being a predatory mobile game feature to being a predatory mainstream game feature. Mainstream games look at the broad, repeated success of mobile and social games and learn the exact wrong lessons. They try to take some of that heat from the bonfire, but they just end up with a fistful of twigs that they turn into an axe, that they use to get more wood, that they use to turn into a better axe, to build a better... So what's the right lesson to learn from these games? Well, it's exactly what Galante did with Vampire Survivors. Make a podcast game. People don't love these games because they give out little badges, although I'm sure that's part of the allure for some people. People love these games because they're accessible. They're easy to pick up, play, and put down. They don't require your full concentration. And best of all, they're endless, so they really cut down on the decision paralysis of what to play next. Idle games serve a need that far predates video games, one that is vital to our happidness. It's the most noble human quest to just kind of zone out a little bit. Since the first time media became available in the home, it has been a boon to people just trying to take a little bit of a break. It has also been reviled for this. When the first cupboard-sized radio was wheeled into somebody's nattering parlor, people began gathering around it like an audio fire to stave off the chill of boredom. Some decried this as the end of conversation. In the 50s, the television arose, and with it, concerns that this boob tube would indolinate the children. In the 2000s, once the wave of hipsters bragging about not owning a TV died down, a lot of less smug people found that they didn't need their TV either. After all, we had the internet, and the internet had stumble upon, like a channel clicker for your browser. Then social media websites adopted the infinite scroll, meaning you never needed to leave that one site to access new content. And just literally this week, I saw somebody online bragging about the fact that they don't have a TikTok. And they also said that when they tell people they don't have a TikTok, that people are like, yeah, it's probably for the best. And like, to be fair, that's probably what I would say to somebody who is like, I don't even have a TikTok. It's like, okay, don't. It's fine. It's fine to not have these things. All of these mediums have the same benefits as idle games. They're perpetually available, endless. You can hop in and out with ease. Your choices are finite. If you don't like what you see, click to a different channel or keep scrolling. And there's no skill check for watching reruns of Columbo. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi had a theory that humans regulate their mental well-being with microflows. You might be more familiar with his work on flow states, that beautiful moment in a game when you're super engaged and the rest of the world just kind of melts away. Microflows are a kind of lesser flow. They're a mindless behavior that isn't required or productive, but just fun or satisfying in some way. They range from naps to chatting with friends, reading, or even just chewing gum. But the specific activity isn't the thing that really matters. What matters is the ability to control your time by giving yourself a break to do something simple and easy that you know you like. He and co-author Ronald Grafe conducted an experiment to find out what happened when subjects denied themselves these little breaks and just like totally raw-dogged their whole day with full consciousness. Among the results, they found that most people were more stressed out when they couldn't do these simple little activities. But more interestingly, they found that people who relied on spontaneous imagination, like daydreaming, felt worse about themselves when they were denied the activity. But those who used vicarious imagination, like watching TV or reading books, actually had a higher self-esteem when they denied themselves these activities. Now, this was a single limited study, so it's definitely up to debate how universal these results are. But I don't think the issue lies in the medium of television or books. I think the issue lies in how that media consumption is perceived. which is to say, negatively. People felt better about not doing these activities because they associate them with being a waste of time in a way that we don't with other behaviors. Like if I popped in a stick of gum, nobody would be like, if you can lean, you can clean, and if you can chew, you can accrue. Gum is for closers. And wasting time is the point of these activities. Can you guess what the most streamed television show was last year? It wasn't Succession, and it wasn't The Bear. It wasn't any prestige television. It was Suits, a 9-season-long lawyer procedural that's been off the air for 5 years. This is microflow TV, long-lasting, choiceless, episode-long arcs, easy to half-watch. Also, Meghan Markle was in it. That's not like a hallmark of microflow media. It just felt worth saying. Shows that don't demand too much from us clearly have a place in our attention ecosystem. Media-assisted zoning out only becomes a problem when you don't feel like you're in control of it, like when you spend $4,000 on a gacha game without realizing it. On the one hand, it's great that One Piece has 1,092 episodes, because now I know what I'm watching for the next decade. But on the other hand, what's to stop me from binging it all as quickly as I possibly can? Self-restraint? Are you fucking kidding me? The endlessness means that you never have to make a choice to get more content, but you do have to make a choice to stop getting content. This is particularly bad on social media because every second you're not consuming, you're missing content. It's not like TikTok is going to play reruns of the pink sauce trend. And because a lot of people use social media to learn dubious life hacks or bad interpretations of news, it has the sticky veneer of being useful. Time spent, not time wasted. But the truth is, if you don't give yourself little breaks, you'll probably end up taking them anyway. And then you'll feel bad because you won't feel like you're in control of your time. You will, as Joan Jett would say, hate yourself for loving this. Taking a break is just the self-empowered version of wasting time, but culturally we divide those into good wastes of time and bad wastes of time. And sometimes those lines are as arbitrary as being on your small screen versus being on your big screen. Thank you for watching this video to whatever extent you actually did. And a special thank you to Alice, Common Opponent, and Danielle and Court Welch, who have the hyper-involved, all-encompassing Zen focus of a Buddha with laser eyes. Also, I would love if you left a comment telling me what your favorite Zone Out media is, because I can only rewatch Taskmaster so many times, and Taskmaster already took over for the Great British Bake Off. I just need, like, more good, long media that I can chill out and not engage with. And as always, please support me on Patreon at patreon.com/thejenna. The subscriber-only video this month is just things that I cut from this video, which is quite a lot. And it was a long video anyway. So it's a lot of stuff about like the microflow experiments and results from that, because that is so fascinating. I really wanted to talk about cow clicker in this video. But I cut a lot of it because it's super interesting, but it was kind of meandering. Let me talk to you about cow clicker. Patreon.com/thejenna.
BoobTube. BoobTube.